Yay Networks.
Welcome to a brand new episode of the Fitish podcast. I'm excited because we have a guest coming up on the show today.
Yeah, we finally made it happen.
Yeah, speech pathologist. I'm always saying the title wrong. I promise by the time she joins us, I'm going to get it right because I would hate to go to school for a really long time and then someone calls me like a therapist when I'm a pathologist. So, you know, you go to school for a long time for things like this. So we had a lot of good feedback from y'all, especially because I feel like a lot of you are parents with young kids and we get a lot of, inquiries about how is Remy talking so much or what are y'all doing? And y'all, we're no experts. We're failing every day at parenting. We just have a chatty kid because we're chatty people. So we're going to talk to the expert about that coming up in a little bit on the show. But speaking of Remy, 'tis the season for school shopping. Well, not just school shopping, but actual like school attending. Fran and I went to a parents' open house over the weekend.
We went to a parents' open house and we saw
at our number one
little school
choice. This little school, yeah.
And so it has been my favorite school and my ideal school from the get-go before he was born. And we dabble and we looked, and it's always good to go back to the basis with an educated decision made by you. Mainly, you did a lot of the legwork. I was just the motivator.
Me?
Yeah.
Me? You're giving me credit?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Well, I always give you credit.
Not verbally, aloud.
Okay.
Just in your head and in your heart, and I just love to hear it
and
aloud.
And text
sometimes.
messages and phone calls.
Call phones. Your accent today, like what's going on with you today?
I'm looking forward for the speech pathologist because I can get...
Your accent's like super strong today.
Even though everybody said that communication is my strongest asset.
No one says that. Who says that? No one says that about you. You're also 23 minutes late to podcast today.
We surveyed 5,000 people.
No one says that.
Out of those 5,000 people, 90% of them said that communication was my strong suit.
No.
The other 10% didn't speak the language.
It's like, it's okay. We're all flawed. We all have our flaws, but it is literally crazy of you, mental illness, to think that communication is your strong suit when I believe it is like one of your weakest points. And like we've even had friends and family express this to us, like, "Hey, I'm planning a birthday dinner for Jenna. Great," and then you just never let them know that it was canceled. Like people are just left hanging in the void of planning.
Ask and you shall receive.
Shall not receive. Wait, that's so funny. So yeah, we need to get on it, especially with communication, because I'm sure we haven't even scratched the surface of when you have a kid and all the stuff that starts to happen with school and whatnot. It is like I increasingly have more respect for stay-at-home moms. Not that I didn't before, but I think before you have kids, you think, oh, I could never be a stay-at-home mom. Like it's, it must be so like tedious and kind of like mind numbing, and you're doing so much of this work that goes unappreciated. I always recognize the work that it was, but I also felt like since it is so unappreciated, it's not as tangible to the outside world, that I was like, I could never be a stay-at-home mom. And it's so interesting now that I am a mom that Fran and I talk about this a lot. Like we want to be stay-at-home parents. Like we feel like the dream in life is to like not have to work for money every day so you can spend time with your child. And so that's anyway. And I recognize it, like, and all of the school planning and all of that, right? It stay-at-home momming is more than a full-time job. You're just not getting paid for it. You know that they did an article and they equated a stay-at-home mom salary should equate to like $90,000 a year.
Well, it makes sense because the average salary for a good nanny is around $30
an hour.
Yeah. So if you count that by 8, then by 40,
but I think stay-at-home mom, you're really also referring to like they're the maid. They are, they're doing the maid. They're doing all the maid's job. They're doing all the kids stuff, all the school stuff, all the house stuff as well. Like think about the arranging of just like if you have someone cut your lawn or or the house. There's
stay-at-home moms also cut lawns,
or they arrange for it. But yes, probably. We've been watching that Nate Bargatze, how do you say his last name, the comedian, and he was just hosting SNL. He's a really funny kind of family man dad style of comedy. Fran and I like it very much, very observational humor, but he's like, the lawn guy is my wife, and I don't like her tone, but it's so funny because he said that his wife like does everything around the house like that, is more of the handyman. So when people come to and repair things in the home, he's like, and they start talking to him about whatever it is, the AC unit, he's like, he has to go get his wife because he doesn't know anything in the house. He's so funny. I recommend his stand-up specials are pretty good. Family dad style, so very relatable, for us.
I'm gonna switch careers. I'm gonna start telling jokes for living.
You have the perfect platform. So why don't you start? Why don't next week, next show? Why don't you get like a whole?
I'm gonna have like a stand-up show.
I'm so. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this. I think you should. The problem with this, friends, it takes preparation. They don't just get up on the stage and wing it. They rehearse it enough times that it looks like they're winging it. If that makes sense.
Wing it.
The good ones do not wing it. Fuck, Fran. The good ones do the opposite. They practice it over and over again. It's like, I don't even want to get into that right now. It's like the Chris Rock thing. Like, there are certain people that you'll notice they'll repeat things when they're on stage, and that's all rehearsed. The repetition of the jokes and the things they do. If you watch them, you'll see. But yeah, they practice that shit over and over and over.
I can tell you one thing.
Our producer can confirm this.
I don't see T.O. Vaughn rehearsing for jack shit.
T.O. Vaughn. That's so amazing. We have to take. I don't see T.O. Vaughn rehearsing.
Like, I think you just come up with shit because you've lived it.
I went on a date with T.O. Vaughn.
I know, you said it. Yeah.
We did yoga. We did hot yoga.
All your highlight celebrity little bits I know about.
First of all, I went on a date. You made sure
to make him sure I knew about them first date.
That is such bullshit. You're so fucking jealous, Latino vibes right now. You're so jealous. I did not drop all of that. I'm old enough to know you should never reveal all the people. We did not sleep together. We didn't hook up or kiss or anything. That's the truth. But he was on the show one time. He blew up so much over COVID. He is so fucking funny. Like, his word pairings, I think, like, he is just so brilliant. But he's a nice guy. He was on the show. He was doing stand-up at one of the comedy stores here in Dallas. And he asked me, he was like, is there an Equinox here? Is there a gym? Like, I want to go work out or something. So I just was like, yeah, sure. Like, and one of the guys on the show at the time, like, loved him. Trey, who was a producer on the show, he's like, Jenna, you have to do it. And I was like, what do you mean I have to do him? Like, he has a mullet, but I love Theo. I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, he is so funny. And I thought he was so funny too. But yeah, I took him to do hot yoga and we about died. And then we went to, a pancake house up by where he was staying. And then I took like Claudia and Steven, my friends, and we went to watch his stand-up that night. And that was that. So that was great. Cool. He was telling me some funny stories when we had pancakes. But no, it wasn't like a romantic thing. It was just like kind of a hangout, And I was like, and then to follow him all this time. And then he kept just like coming across. Well, we followed each other on Instagram, but he kept like coming across. And I would show you videos. I'm like, he is so fucking funny, But don't worry. There was no, romantic.
Worries is the least thing I was feeling.
Again, at least own your jealousy. Like, whatever.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Whatever.
Takes a village.
He's hilarious, too, though. He really is. T.O. Good old T.O. Vaughn. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's not rehearsing. Like, he's not like...
Yes, he fucking is.
Just memories
Garrett,
of the trailer park.
We need someone in between. Memories of the trailer park? No. And I know from personal experience of speaking with him, those stories are all... very accurate, loosely based off other people, sometimes embellished. It has been discussed. We asked him this after his stand-up, but this is all like, there are bits of truth with embellishment, but he, of course, sits there and writes out the word pairing, Yeah.
Cool. Well, there's a lot I need to learn from my new career. Certainly.
Mm-hmm. Or just wing it next week. I think the audience would love to see you just wing your stand-up.
That's what I do every fucking day.
And then you say things like, and then that's when you get these gems like call phones instead of phone calls. Well, we totally digress, but we have Remy's, we have a family interview for this school. So,
and she's so nervous. Like, it's just so crazy. Like, he's not going to do the SAT. He doesn't have to like prove himself.
I literally at the tour, at the open house, heard a mom apologizing to the person we're interviewing with going, I'm so sorry about last time. It was just one of those days, which means her kid probably had a full-on meltdown that they couldn't even interview the child. They take the child They take our Remy away from us and speak with him and monitor him.
No, I heard it. I heard that conversation, and I felt that she was talking to the bouncer of the hottest fucking club. It's like, their child. That's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like, don't apologize for the behavior that your child was doing when he was less than 2 years old. Like,
So, moms, you know what? I'm not even arguing with you.
Unless he starts saying fuck. That's because that's something that he learns at home, and it's a reflection of our beautiful communication, flowerful communication.
If he looks at that woman and says fuck witch, you know, like, I feel like he's not saying fuck.
I caught him the other day saying shit.
I don't even say that.
Like shit. Like
I do not say shit. That's on you. You do say shit. That shit is not something that, I don't know. That's just not one of my favorites.
I say mierda.
I like fucking, I like cunt. And those are really the words, but I never say cunt in front of him. I only say cunt here in front of y'all because I just like the sound of the word. So yeah, we don't swear as much, but I am very cognizant of it now because he is a parrot. And as much as I used to think it's funny when kids swear, it's obviously not funny when they start going to school and then your kid's the one at fault. It's like, you don't want to have the biter. I've heard from a lot of people, you either have the biter or your kid gets bit, which is also horrifying.
I'd rather have the biter than the bite.
Absolutely not. I'd rather have the one that gets bit. I would definitely rather have the victim, right? Why do you want the biter? Because then everyone knows that your kid's the biter. And that's like, no, Fran.
I'm a biter.
Yeah, you are a biter. There have been some times having sex that you bit me like hard, and I do not like it. I do not like it. I do not like it.
Well, I'll take that off my repertoire.
I'm like, ow. Like, I feel like there's like blood on my lip, and I'm like, what's happening here? He's eating me.
Well, I was hungry that day, you know? I haven't been eating much these days.
You'll see the quick way I silence him and bring it up when he bought me. Bit me, bought me. What am I even saying right now?
Well, the good thing is that we have a speech pathologist that's going to be able to help us with all of our speech issues we've been having today.
Okay, before she joins the show, I'm going to say it. I don't think I'm going to jinx it, but I just want to breeze over something before we take a break and hear from her. Just as like a little life lesson, I feel that there was like some stressful things that happened lately with the business, some disappointing things, and you go through these phases with business that you're like, like, why does this kind of stuff happen? But I'm kind of in this mindset now as I'm like 40 years old going, shit happens, keep going, keep focusing. So we had this, like, I got to go to Neiman Marcus and see this Victoria Beckham thing, right? And frankly, I got invited at very last second, the day of. I was kind of like, didn't really want to go, was tired, had other things to do for work. But I went because I am a big believer in this kind of karma of, if you go when people ask you to do things, especially things that could be good networking opportunities, you never know what could happen. Wouldn't you know it? And it wasn't that I did not get to even meet Victoria Beckham or get a photo with her, which is fine. But I met a woman that I had known of and that, we had like maybe kind of heard of each other, but I was just kind of forward and went and introduced myself for her really to her really for no other reason than just, I felt like I don't know. I just felt, that's weird, isn't it? Because I'm not that outgoing. I felt a connection. No, I just felt like I'm going to go say hi to her. I mean, I'm here. I definitely, as I've gotten older, when I used to go to events, I'm pretty antisocial. And I know a lot of you don't believe me because you feel like I'm good at being social, but I would go mingle, do the thing and then leave, but not always introduce myself to a lot of people unless they talk to me. But I've decided that I'm going to take advantage of these short 30-minute windows of time and introduce myself. So anyway, so she was super nice and she ended up like asking me to go to lunch the week after, and we go to lunch, and then she has since invited me to go to Art Basel in Miami for some really cool Vogue events that she's a part of. And I'm like, wait, this is amazing. And when we went to lunch, we were speaking about, I kind of let her know the state of the business and some things that had been going on. And she had expressed to me some other stuff going on with her life. And we started kind of speaking about, challenges like that. And she was kind of expressing to me, she's like, it's interesting because God usually challenges you in places where you're about to grow, or gives you hardship in places where you're about to grow. And, I didn't really tell her that I'm not religious. I haven't really broken that news to her. But you know, it's so interesting because I do believe in an element of that. I mean, I do believe that like things happen in your life at the right time. And sometimes things that seem like really the point of all of this is just a small lesson of how quickly that something very upsetting happened. And then literally, you know, the next day, something like this happens, that I meet someone that's like wanting to help with some really cool connections for my business. And her and I were speaking about that. She goes, I think, you know, things happen at weird times.
I'm so excited because sometimes we get stuck in situations, relationships that are just holding us down. And not only holding us down, holding our business down, holding our whole entire environment down. People say, and it's very true, not people, there is certain person that I don't remember his name. It says, you become the people that you surround yourself. Like you become those 5 people closer to you or 3 people closer to you. And I think we have to be very cautious of that.
Yeah.
Because it's so true. Like the water reaches its level, whether it's up or down.
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, I agree with that to some extent. I also agree that you never know what other people are going through and what causes them to, you know, do things that they do. And, you know, the older I get, I just always kind of want to be the bigger person in moments of distress and just say, okay, it is what it is. But I do believe in this. And that's what's really more interesting for me, y'all, is, you know, not being a religious person, now being introduced to someone who is obviously, we were having lunch, by the way, and she was taking a phone call and so she's on the phone, our food gets set down and I start eating. Because you do what you do, right? So about a minute later, she gets off the phone call and grabs my hand to pray. And I felt like such a jerk because I do not pray, you know, and I do not pray over my food. I do not pray in any circumstance. And I don't judge it. I mean, that's great. It's just that I'm not religious, you know, and I make that known to people. Like, I don't think that that's anything. I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of, regardless of how you feel about anything. So I don't like to lie about that, you know, but I told Fran, I go, I'm about to have the best experience with someone and I'm going to come back and being like, amen, you know, but it is interesting. And maybe I'm being introduced to
God act in strange ways, you know,
and if God wants me to go to Art Basel, to Vogue events in Miami, then so be it. Look at Fran rolling his eyes, whatever.
100%. I think,
No. The point is more just like people getting put into your life at interesting times, kind of regardless of what you believe. It is the universe trying to tell you something, which is very cool. So the lesson of that for me is go to the thing that you don't always want to go to, especially if it's for networking or business related, because these are the moments where doors open. And it goes back to how I met Fran, by the way, because I took a business meeting at a restaurant, one that I was really tired that day, didn't really want to go. My meeting was late, so then it ran late, and then I met Francisco. So you never really know what happens if you just kind of put yourself in a scenario that maybe you didn't really want to do it, but you're getting out of the house and, you know, and it could be work related or it could be personal, meeting a friend. Sometimes you just never know, you know, the spiral that comes from that, which is cool. So yeah, hopefully I've never been to Art Basel in Miami. I'm so excited. Cool. I can't buy anything, but I'm still excited.
I'm sad we're not going together, but I'm very excited for you because I got to go last year without you and it was sad.
It was not sad for you. It was more sad for me.
It was sad for both of us because
you're going to be mad now. I'm going to be in Miami.
Your trip is going to be way more exciting than mine was last year. Like last year was so much work. Like it was constant, like meetings, these, and I didn't have a time to like enjoy it. And
sure.
The time that you're not in a cool event, which you're in a cool event for 20 minutes and in the freaking car for an hour and a half.
Oh, that's right. That's how it's going to be.
So I hope she has a helicopter. I just want to say that.
Anyway, I'm like that was super generous of her to invite me. I'm really excited. So I'll make some good TikToks.
Great. Okay. That's the priority.
Just watch my TikTok.
Huh? Oh, good.
What's the priority? No, to network and to hang out and people watch and make a new friend. What do you mean? What's the priority?
No, I said TikToks.
Fuck yeah. What do you mean?
We were like, Remy's gonna be, where's mama? Like, let me open my TikTok.
It's like a sit down lunch with Victoria Beckham and like Anna Wintour and like 20 people. That's insane.
Great.
I'm gonna get kicked out. They're gonna be like, that girl's never going back to a Vogue event again. What am I gonna wear? Look at me. I'm in fake Uggs today. I'm in fake Uggs from Amazon. I've turned full mom status. I'm like a fashionista 2 days a month. Like, I don't have the budget, you know, but I'm like, man, I got to put some outfits together. I'm in Fugs. Yeah. disgusting. These are great, by the way, y'all. I'll post them on Amazon storefront because they were like 50, $60 and the Uggs are ugly anyway. These were half the price of the Uggs. And look, they look just like them. They're so warm. What's wrong? They're going to fall apart. Don't squeeze them too hard. No. All right. We got to take a quick break, but we're really excited to hear from our licensed speech pathologist, Heather, that's going to be joining the show. And hopefully we can all learn a lot about the development of our children, of our prized youth. Yeah. We'll see you in a minute. Sometimes your gut tells you to call your ex. Well, my gut doesn't always tell me that anymore. Unfortunately, Symbiotic Plus can't help with that. But if your gut's telling you it needs a little support, Ritual has your back. You know, the craziest thing is in my office the other day, I was speaking about Ritual, especially the Symbiotic Plus that they offer with the subscription and a probiotic in general. And a bunch of the younger girls that work here were like, what's a probiotic? They had never even heard of a probiotic. And I feel so informed now that I've added Symbiotic Plus to my Ritual subscription that I was letting them know how actually great it can be for your skin. If you're having skin issues, you know, taking a probiotic, that it could be that your gut health is really off, that you have inflammation and your gut is trying to tell you something. So if your gut is telling you something and you're not taking Ritual Symbiotic Plus, I think this is your sign to do so. This is a daily 3-in-1 prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic with 2 of the world's most clinically studied probiotic strains to support the relief of, you know, mild, occasional digestive discomfort like bloating, gas, and diarrhea. And this is just life-changing. Sometimes I think you don't even know how bad you're feeling until you start to feel really great. I have always been a fan of Ritual supplements. I took them all pre, during, and post-pregnancy. And so whether you take the daily multivitamin or the prenatal, postnatal, you can easily add Symbiotic Plus to your Ritual monthly subscription. Symbiotic Plus and Ritual are here to celebrate, not hide your insides. It's time to listen to your gut. And Ritual is offering our Fitish listeners 30% off during your first month. Visit ritual.com/Fitish to start Ritual, or just add Symbiotic Plus to your subscription today. The holidays can be so unnecessarily stressful. ButcherBox has alleviated so much of that stress. I don't know why becoming a mom has made me even more stressed about what's for dinner than I already was. I think because I care so much about what my child eats. And frankly, I'm just not the type of person that has the time or desire to go to the grocery store all the time, pick out the best cuts of meat. That's what I love the most about ButcherBox. You know, you are getting the highest quality meat and seafood that you can trust. 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, pork raised crate-free, and wild-caught seafood, all humanely raised, no antibiotics or added hormones, and above all else, conveniently delivered right to your front door. Free shipping as always, and you can of course curate the box if you know you're not into seafood or you don't want to eat pork, whatever your stomach desires. You can curate these boxes, and the holidays is such a great time to start this delivery because you're gonna want to cook. You're gonna probably need to make things to take to relatives' homes. You're gonna look like the top of the line chef, let me tell you that. So if you haven't tried ButcherBox before, now is the time. This Black Friday, your search for amazing deals on high quality protein ends with ButcherBox. They are offering their best deal of the entire year. So what does this mean? You get to choose your free steak for a year. You can choose between 2 New York strip steaks, filet mignons, or ribeyes to get free in every box for a whole year. And I don't know about y'all, but we eat steak at least twice a week. So you're going to be getting this for free. It really adds up. Sign up today at butcherbox.com/Fitish and use the code Fitish to choose your free steak for a year and get $20 off. That's butcherbox.com/Fitish and use the code Fitish to get this special Black Friday deal plus $20 off. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. And I know I'm always referencing how stressful the holidays are. I think it's just a thing that all of us say because it's true. And I know some people are able to brush it off. And I'm sure it only gets more stressful the more kids you have, the more family you have, gifts that need to be bought. It can also be a really hard time of year for any of us that have lost loved ones, a time of reflection, a time where you really feel that void. And there is absolutely no shame in struggling. I actually had someone reach out to me on social media yesterday, someone that I didn't know, and she expressed to me that she's 18 months in with her baby and that she is not really enjoying it, even the days that are kind of easy and good. And I said to her, you need to seek professional help. It is time. There's no shame. It's very overwhelming to have a child. Life in general these days, right, y'all? Let's be real. It's very overwhelming. And a professional, this is what BetterHelp is here for. You can sit at home. Don't make the excuse that you don't have the time or the money. BetterHelp is more affordable than almost all other in-person therapies that you might find. And you don't even have to leave your house. And you can have a professional within just a couple of days that they've matched you with speak to you about your problems and help you cope with what's going on in your life. I've utilized BetterHelp. I recommend it to everyone that reveals to me they're going through a hard time. There is no shame in this, and life can be so much better if you just give therapy a try. If you've been thinking of starting therapy, try out BetterHelp. Again, it's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Fitish today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Fitish. Fran, it's a rare occasion, and I'm so excited, probably because no one ever wants to join us on the show. Someone wrote us, and she's been wanting to join the show, and she's an expert.
Wow. I'm so excited.
About a month or so ago, and I know I told you all this, someone named Heather wrote me on my email and just said, Jenna, she wanted to talk about Remy and all of his talking and give me some tips. And then I shared some of her tips on an episode a couple of weeks ago because Heather is a pediatric speech and language pathologist, so very high degree and such an expert on this. And I think a lot of parents who listen to us were very interested in kind of like, what's normal for my child? What can I do to help them talk more? And I get that question a lot on social media, and I don't have the answer. I don't know what we're doing right. So that's why we're bringing in the expert. Heather, hi. Thank you for joining us on the Fitish podcast today.
Hi, thank you. You are so kind to say everything. That's so sweet of you.
No, I loved your email. And I think that being a first-time parent, because that's all I can speak to, is really overwhelming, especially the beginnings, just kind of getting through, right? You don't have high expectations out of your child. You don't know what developmentally they're supposed to do. But then when you start to notice some kids walking or talking or, developing at a rate that seems different than your child, I think you kind of go, oh no. Is mine okay? Or in Fran's case, Fran goes, our baby's a genius. I'm like, no, he's not. I think he's just talking a lot. So tell us a little bit just kind of about what you do for a living and your background.
Yes, of course. I got a bachelor's degree in communication disorders, and then I went on to get my master's degree in communication disorders. And initially, I really wanted to work with adults following strokes and work on language disorders with adults. And I am very passionate about working with adults. But after we had a hurricane here in Louisiana, and following the hurricane, I lost my job working with adults, and a local hospital needed help in their pediatric division. So I stepped in, and it's like the missing part that I never knew I needed.
How about that? So how long have you been working with kids?
It's been about 2 years. And then before that, it was mostly adults.
Wow. That's amazing. And what do you like the most, working with kids or with adults?
Ooh, it's so hard. Because realistically, you're working on the same skills with children and adults. You just have to modify for either population. So it's really interesting that, regardless, I'm working on cognition, I'm working on language skills, and I might just have to modify. And I guess that's why it was really so easy to go from adults to children, because it's the same skill set. You just have to modify how you do therapy.
So for a lot of people listening, I think, a lot of our audience, at least the feedback, the ones that have written us, they're kind of in this same level of young, they have young children right now. So whether they're, infants or a year old or 2 years old. And so that question is, wow, I've gotten this DM quite frequently lately is, Jenna, my child is a month older or a month younger, but only saying mama or only saying dada. And Remy right now is, I guess, at 20 months old. And yes, I think he is a talker. I mean, the doctor told us that. At first I was kind of ignoring Fran, like, no, he's not, necessarily smart, right? I mean, you don't really associate that with intelligence. So I guess my question coming from some of these other families is, how do you know what's normal and what's not when kids are just beginning to talk? And if they're only saying mama, like at what point, do you even look at that as they're having some speech delay?
Yeah, so you do look overall at what the child is capable, and you would think initially you're just looking at verbal expression, but realistically, we look at their cognitive ability, how their brain works. You look at their play skills, because those are very important too. It's like an insight into how their brain works. You also look at their level of understanding and their joint attention skills. And even though it might be a couple words that they say, it's a good indicator if their receptive language, their understanding is relatively appropriate. I think it shows good promise for what they're capable of when you look at verbal expression.
So even if they're not saying, a dozen words, but they're able to kind of show you or sign they want more of something or milk, and they point or things of that nature, and they're paying attention to you when you ask, you would say that they're, other than the fact that they're not communicating the actual words verbally, that they still are cognitively, at where they should be?
Yes, it's so exciting. I love it when the parents, they think it's like a little win because their kids are understanding. And then I tell them when they come in, I'm like, this is so important for what you want. You want them to speak, and it is so important that they're understanding, if they are understanding.
So one question, and when would it be time of concern if your child is not talking? Which age is the one that's like, okay, now we need to seek professional help?
Well, I do get a lot of children that come in for their 2-year pediatric wellness checkup. I get a lot of doctors that refer at 2 years old because if they're not saying hardly anything, a lot of doctors nowadays are like, let's get it checked out. So 24 months.
So 2, if your child's not saying, I guess, more specifically, what should a 2-year-old be able to verbally communicate?
Of course. Well, they won't always be very intelligible or easy to understand, but typically at that age, they'll be saying anywhere from 100, 200, 300 words, or they might understand that amount of words. They might not always say those words, or they might use the sign, which signing is technically a word. It's their ability to communicate. So I would say about 200 or so words, and then they might be 50% intelligible, but they don't acquire the ability to produce all their sounds until sometimes 7 years old. And then in regards to understanding the language at that age, they'll look whenever you discuss something, they'll look in the right location. They'll answer questions like where or what, with familiar objects, of course, and they can respond to yes, no questions, typically.
What are some tips? And I know you wrote me some great ones I shared with the audience a couple of episodes ago. But, in your words, really, I think just for instance, I know you reference a lot of kind of reading, and I read a lot about how reading the same book actually like over and over again is really effective, or the same few books. Do you have any real tangible tips like that to work on? Because I've tried to tell people what we do with Remy, and I don't know if he's just a talker. I mean, I definitely speak. Clearly, I talk a lot. I also show him my mouth when I'm speaking, and try and keep things very kind of short and simple. Like you say, the yes or no questions and things like that. But could you maybe give a few really tangible tips for some of the parents listening with a child in that age range?
Of course. So I like what you're doing with Remy, because that is what you do when you read, and also just going about your daily business. You're always getting dressed in the morning. You're always getting in the car. You're always going to work. So you just continuously, and you narrate, and you always provide like a verbal routine. So for instance, my daughter, when I change her diaper, so silly, but I would always say, let me see that booty booty. And so then every time I would say, let me see that. And then she would say, booty.
That's so cute. Actually, that's so good.
But it's because I would do it continuously, and it takes that pressure off of her because she knows the answer.
You're
It's
so
always
right,
the
and
same.
that's why so many people credit Miss Rachel. Which what are your thoughts? I didn't. I know I'm jumping around a bit, but of course I think this is every parent's worst question in the pediatrician's office. Or we're taking Remy to a Montessori school for an interview next week, and in part of my application, does he watch more than 1 hour of television a day? And I'm of the opinion, this is the issue I tend to have with my mom, who is a caretaker for us with him, and also Fran. It's easier said than done, isn't it? I mean, I don't think we try to not do a lot of screen time, but let's be real. I think all of us would be lying if we didn't say that we use that television sometimes. So just knowing that, yeah, sure. Some days it's not much at all, right? Some days it's 30 minutes or it's just the phone while he's screaming and his diaper's changing and we put Blippi on. But could you maybe give us a quick, these are totally okay and safe here and there, and these are just the worst shows ever. Do not show them to your child. Could you give us a few of those?
I could. I can only tell you how I feel personally,
Okay.
really. I do adore Miss Rachel because I am a knockoff Miss Rachel, is what I like to say.
Hey, I think
So
we all kind of want to be, right?
Yeah,
That's
no,
great.
like-
Okay.
I think we're all a little bit of a knockoff Miss Rachel.
Yeah.
Now you're an expert knockoff Miss
Yeah, that's
Rachel,
true.
though.
That's true. Okay,
Oh,
so
so
she's
kind, so
okay.
kind.
So she's okay in
Yes.
doses. Okay.
And then I guess what I kind of like to stay away from is the fast-paced, sing-songy Coco Melon,
Paw
that
Patrol.
YouTube guy that does the dances with the overstimulating lights, and I can't remember his name.
Ooh,
Blippi?
I don't know that one. I don't think Blippi's
Yes.
the worst, but he just drives me nuts.
No, Blippi's
So
fine too. And really, and it's not that they can't watch those things. It would just be more, I guess, beneficial for the child if you would also interact and point out some things. That way you're sharing in an activity together and you can say, like, I understand this, and then you can understand this. And it's something that we can appreciate together as a parent and a child.
So yeah, when Miss Rachel was doing the Hop Little Bunny, he doesn't even like that one anymore, but I would hop around and sing. So just interacting, paying attention,
Yeah.
showing him that
Yeah.
you're singing along. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
I think
and I
that's
do
really
love Miss
important.
Rachel.
Okay, great. Yeah, we've always heard Coco Melon. It's like it's like meth television for kids. And it makes sense when you watch it. It's like, wow, it's really problematic for their attention spans, I'm sure.
That, and it's so fast paced, and it puts a lot of pressure on the child because they don't know what's coming next, and then they walk away from that experience thinking that everybody talks like that, and that's not how people communicate. But they get it in their mind that is how we communicate, is in song and quickly.
This is more specific to us, which is really some of the only kinds of questions I can ask, but twofold, really. I think a mistake that I make sometimes, and that I've heard to not do this, and I don't know your thoughts, when Remy's, we've noticed a really good independent player. And, he will sit by himself and he will line up his dinosaurs almost that I wonder what's going on in his head. He wants to line things up. He likes to categorize them and line things up, which seems a little, I don't know, maybe we have other issues. But,
File them by
sometimes I would
alphabet.
stop him and go, what color is that one? Da-da-da. And I've heard that that's not always the right thing to do, is like you don't always want to be quizzing them on things. I mean, how do you feel about that when you're trying to engage and play with them and ask them questions?
I would say that if your child is receptive to that kind of input, it does not seem to be bothering them and it seems beneficial, then you can continue. But I do see that a lot of kids with language delay, if you do that, the naming and the what's this and the what color, it's not beneficial for children with a delay because it's not the input that they need.
Mm-hmm.
They would need for you to say it. And that way, by you saying, wow, a dinosaur, they know that you don't expect them to say anything. That way, they might feel free to imitate you.
That makes a lot of
And we
sense. So don't
notice
quiz
that a
them. Just
lot,
keep
for
telling them
sure.
what it is. Just say, oh, look, a blue dinosaur. It's a blue dinosaur, until they start. So it should really be on them to initiate. So once they start trying to say it, but until then, don't be quizzing them.
No, and that's something I noticed a lot with our child. When we are talking to him organically, he will repeat anything and everything. But if you put him in a pressure situation where you're asking, hey, tell mama this and that, it's a 50-50 that he's going to say it or not.
He did he did in the doctor the other day. He went, ear hurt me. And the doctor looked at him and I was like, see? He's telling you he has no ear infection, but he keeps saying ear hurt me. So we're trying to get to the bottom of it. We think it's teething, right? I guess that could be an option in the back, but he keeps going ear hurt me and he keeps pulling on it. So of course we keep taking him to the doctor and they're like penning him down. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. And he looks at her and he goes, ear hurt me. I was like, yeah, man, you're communicating. That's amazing.
I'm so happy too, especially in regards to ears, because, the ability to hear plays such an important role on understanding language. So I'm so happy that you brought him in, even if it's just to get it checked out.
100%.
No, you're absolutely right. No, absolutely right. So, what about when it comes to, I argue with him some, she's going to think I'm terrible. Remy and I speak to him also like an adult, right? Like I don't baby talk him for the most part. I mean, I'll enunciate and show him my mouth and slow down and do a lot of repeating of words, but he hasn't learned metallic colors yet. He knows some of the other colors, but with Christmas going on and he keeps picking up nutcrackers. He likes nutcrackers that are gold and silver and I'm trying to teach him, but he keeps handing me gold things and telling me they're black. But then when I tell him it's not black, I say, no, that's called gold. He goes, no, black. So he wants to argue. So do I just say, okay? Or, I hate him being incorrect. What do I
just beat him to the ground, babe.
I'm asking when it's like he keeps insisting, he keeps going black nutcracker, stop it, Brent, black nutcracker. When they're saying something incorrect and they're emphatic about it, what do you do?
I would not encourage the incorrect expression. So I wouldn't, just be like, oh yeah, black.
Slap him silly.
I would correct. So I would just say gold. Just instead of he gives it to you, says black, you give it back to him, gold.
No, I go, you are wrong. That is not what it is. It is gold. Yeah, I think that's going to be our personality back. I'm going to
come back home one day and it's like, why is Remy in the dog's grade? Like,
oh, stop it. I do not discipline him that way.
Say black.
While we have you, and I know that it may, and if I'm out of line asking this question, just tell me, but since you are an expert on a lot of these things, when you're applying to schools, a lot of them ask you, what are your child's passions? And it's like, okay. And then they ask, how do you discipline your child? And I think for a lot of us, we only have our pediatricians as reference for a lot of things. And I think a lot of us on a day-to-day figure it out as we go. So then I find myself going, wow, how do we discipline our child? And then I'm thinking, I've really been working now, and I don't know if you have any tips on this, because it can be really difficult when you're really frustrated. But when you recognize, or I recognize Remy, he knows now when he's hitting me, or when he's not hitting as much, but he'll use things to hit, or he'll throw, and he knows, it gets a reaction. And so, I've taken the approach of a boundary. Like, I don't know if that's a good approach if I tell him once or I tell him twice, and if he does it again with the Play-Doh, I take it away, and he may cry. But do you have any kind of tips for, I know everyone's different. We're not into the corporal punishment, even though I understand. And sometimes I understand why parents want to whack their child because they drive you crazy. But you know what I'm saying? When someone asks you, how do you discipline a 1.5 or a 2-year-old? Do you have any advice or tips on how to discipline when they start crossing those boundaries?
Yes, I do. So with them being so young, their memory is not as advanced as ours. So the best form of punishment, the most effective, I would say, would to be do it right then in that moment. So if you do threaten to take the iPad away, or you threaten to take the toy away because he's throwing it, you would say, I'm going to take it away if you don't stop. And then if he continues, then you take it away out of sight. And that way he realizes he did something he wasn't supposed to do, and he got immediate repercussions for it, in the hopes that he'll understand if he were to do it again, then the same consequence would happen.
And you think that, you've probably seen, is that effective? Because I think the biggest thing is a lot of people go, oh, he's just a baby. Oh, he's so little. You don't want to do that. But my fear is always, it's like with sleep training, we waited so long to do it that it was considerably harder, to not sleep train till he was a year old or more. And I worry the same about discipline, right? Like, you think setting the stage mildly with the taking stuff away now will prevent those full-fledged toddler meltdowns or, having to do harsher discipline as they get older? Is there any connection?
I would say that it is good to establish like a routine of cause and effect, which is something that we do work on in speech therapy. You do something, you get a result. So I think it is good to establish it early on because it would carry over to different topics and genres, and every child is different. Some children are very, like even with my patients that I have here, some of them are very erratic and elicit behavioral outbursts, and some of them are very calm and I never have to reprimand. Mm-hmm. So it also just depends on the child.
I know you were giving us some tips about, reading and the narration, which is great. I think that's so important. And I think that it comes naturally to me because I talk a lot, but I know that some parents just don't speak a ton, right? So you kind of have to really be cognizant of, I need to do this more. I need to narrate my life more. For those of you, I know you say a lot of parents ask you questions about the not being able to understand, a lot of babbling. Some kids speak very clearly and that takes time. What are some specific tips for helping a child speak more clearly?
Of course, it's really difficult with the little ones because we focus a lot on play when they're so little, because if you try to do anything structured, they're not learning anything because it's just not their cup of tea.
Yeah, it has to be more organic.
Yes, it does. And they have to think that they started it. Like, this was my idea and you're along for the ride. And by that way, you can you want to model the correct sounds. You want to try to listen and identify certain sounds that they consistently produce incorrectly. That way you could use those sounds as often as you find the opportunity so you can model the correct production. Some sounds are easier, some sounds are hard, but I would say if Remy were to come up to you and he offered you his toy car and he said tar with the T sound instead of the K sound, I would just say for you to be like, yeah, a car, and try to overemphasize that incorrect production and give him the model of what it should sound like.
It was me with the S's. Remember, I kept telling him he can't say S's.
And he still have instead of saying S, he says sh sometimes.
Like an SH.
SH.
Yeah, so you, I actually have a story for that, but you want to just bring a lot of attention to your mouth and try to model it back to him.
That's what I was going to say, Heather. It's a perfect time for you can you tell everyone about your digital download Etsy book series? Because I notice it's a lot of alliteration like that, right? To focus on letters that kids struggle with. Can you tell everyone about that?
Of course. So I did recently started to produce digital downloads of short stories for children to help with language development and for their speech articulation skills. Because I found that in doing so, looking for things out there, I couldn't really find anything. So I have a passion for reading and writing. So it just seemed, natural for me to whip something up. But I did create some stories, and everyone focuses on verbal routines like, let me see that booty, except I haven't wrote that one yet.
I love it.
Verbal routines, and that way it's stuff that you can implement into your daily life as a parent, especially if it's in regard to an area you notice your child has trouble with, and hopefully it will help improve their language and speech skills.
Wonderful. So great. I could ask you a million questions that are just self-serving, I'm sure, for our family, and I'm sure everyone listening is going to have a ton of other questions that relate to their kind of experience. Where can people find you on social media if they want to bug you?
Yes, ma'am. I do have an Instagram, Babbling Bayou Babies, and we have our Etsy shop under the same name, Babbling Bayou Babies.
I think the books are a great idea. I'm going to check them out. And I know they're only a few dollars. It's really great. Etsy is so wonderful. Download those. But what a great idea to kind of just read those books all the time.
I like it because it's so convenient to, especially if you are like an iPad parent, to just go to the App Store, buy it, download it.
What a great idea. Well, Heather, thanks so much for joining the podcast today. Again, y'all track Heather down, Babbling Bayou Babies on Instagram or her Etsy store for the downloads. And I'm sure she'll be there to ask a couple of questions, but you have to pay. You have to book an appointment.
This is the only freebie you're getting.
It's the only freebie. Don't give it out for free. No. Thanks so much. And I'm sure I'll be in touch with you again soon. Thanks for joining the show.
Thank you very much.
I am so thankful for you guys. I really appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Thank you. Talk soon. Bye.
Yes, ma'am.
I hope everyone gained something from that. I can talk to an expert like that forever and ask specific questions, but obviously, she gave you her social. So if y'all want to reach out and ask her about anything particular, please do that. I'm sure she'd be a great resource for, especially more specific things about your children's kind of speech development and learning development. But it seems like at least we're doing like something kind of right with him there. I still don't think we read to him enough. I know I say we read books, but I watch other people read like the same 10 books a night or something. And isn't that hard? I didn't even bathe him last night.
I know. But I think...
he was melting down. We give him a bath every single night, but with some of his dry skin areas, we kind of toy with he doesn't need a full shower every single night. So, but yeah.
Every time I touch that kid's sticky somewhere. He does need some cleaning.
He washed his face and brushed his teeth in the sink. Like we did a routine together last night. I'm trying to teach him. I don't know how you're supposed to cut nails and brush teeth every night, y'all. It gets increasingly difficult. Like he wants nothing to do with it. It was way easier when they were really little. But now he actually kind of has breath.
Drug him
to do his nails and his teeth.
Look, his teeth is easy. Like I just it's way easier to do his teeth because you're not handling a sharp object.
You say it. When do you brush his teeth? I don't even see his toothbrush in the bathroom.
No, because I hide it. I hide it because if I leave a toothbrush in the bathroom or anywhere, it vanishes. Never to seen again.
Okay. So you're just leaving it to where other people can't find it?
No, I will buy another one for the purpose of that. But normally, 95% of the times I put him down. That's my joy and pride.
So after he does the bottle, you brush his teeth?
Sometimes before, after, or sometimes before the
bottle. I
bottle.
have never seen you brush his teeth at night when you go in there.
Really?
But you really are doing it?
Yes.
That is so amazing. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Fran tends to put him down at night more, well, almost all of the time. He really enjoys it, and I never want to take it away from him. So, I don't mind it as much as I used to. I used to have a hard time with it because it would take him an hour and a half to go to sleep. And I think Fran and I parent differently. I'm kind of at that. Once it hits an hour and he's like, no bed. He verbalizes to us. He's like, no bed. He wants to fall asleep on the body. And then, you go through that whole, this is so sweet. He's not going to do this forever. And then you're also like, I want to go rot in the bed and be on my phone and watch TV or get some work done. You start stressing a bit about it, So when you were out of town a bunch, I hit that hour mark. And then I was like, if he either wasn't asleep, I'd be like, okay, night, night. And I put him in his bed. He wouldn't fight it. He would just be like, he didn't cry or anything. He would lay down and go to bed. So I think this is more about you wanting to hold him for 1.5 hours.
Yeah, no. And normally he just falls asleep in the first 15 minutes. I just stay there for another extra hour,
playing
15
chess.
minutes.
So you see how that's dipping into our relationship.
No,
an hour and a half of the prime evening time.
It's not that I'm taking it for granted, but the constant is going to be us, And this time with my kid in my arms is not going to last.
I'm so glad you feel that way. I saw a post this morning that was a few slides about parents, especially the parents that have no help. If you're a single parent or you just don't really have any help other than, you're working or you're stay at home full time and you're doing everything, no vacations without the kid, which is really normal for, a lot of people and us at times. And it said, please keep in mind, but once your child hits 12 years old, things are going to change dramatically. So, and I know we talk about once a child, I think y'all probably know this, it makes sense. By the time a child is 18, they have spent the majority of the time they will ever spend with you in their life with you, you know, and then you're just not going to get as much after that. But they say by the time your child's 12, that's actually the turning point as well, that they just don't need you in the same capacity. They start prioritizing their friendships and stuff like that. They want to go hang out with their friends more than they want to hang out with you. I know that's not the case for every child at 12, but it's something to really keep in mind that you'll never regret once your child hits 12. You'll never regret all the time that you spend.
I have that in mind a lot, especially right now traveling. It's just, I just want to spend the most time I can. Well, I have the opportunity.
I want a little bit of me time, but I agree.
Yeah.
Like when I'm at work, I want to be home. And sometimes when I'm home with him, I'm like, I want to get out of here. But, you know, I'm just honest, okay?
No,
I'm communicating with honesty. Yeah.
I like that. For sure.
Well, I hope y'all enjoyed the show today. And we will see you next week. Thanksgiving is upon us. Did you know that? And your 40th birthday, which I have done nothing for.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah,
you know? I'm actually excited about, you know, like.
Oh, I thought he was being sarcastic.
No. You're not flying my parents, right?
Am I?
I hope not. Because if they're not coming on their own, I don't want them here.
Whoa, we need to dig into that a little more next week. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.